Start, please.
Squamous part of the occipital bone.
Squamous part of the occipital bone, pars squamosa.
Optic canal.
Optic canal, canalis opticus.
Basilar part of the occipital bone.
Basal part, but basal part is better to show here, because here is slope, clews. Here you will answer basal part, on which is placed basal pharyngeal tubercle, tuberculum pharyngeus. This is basal part. Here will be also basal part, but this is clews. These are lateral parts of the occipital bone, lateral parts. On the lower side of the lateral sides are placed occipital condyles. Behind will be fossa candilaris, condyle fossa. In the center will be condyle canal. Above then the condyle here, this position, because above here do you see, and here begins, here ends, hypoglossal canal. Hypoglossal canal. This is canalis hypoglossus. External occipital protuberance, protuberans occipitalis externa, from which begins linea nucha superior, superior nucha line. Here do you see above, not very contrast, supreme nucha line, supreme nucha line. Below will be inferior nucha line. You are who? Yashina, and your name? And you study with another teacher today? You can see internal occipital protuberance, groove of the transverse sinus, sulcus sinus transversus, groove of the sagittal superior sinus, sulcus sinus sagittalis superior, the internal occipital crest, sulcus sinus sigmoidus, groove of the sigmoid sinus, groove of the sigmoid sinus. Did you mark all things about temporal bone? You can see frontal bone, orbital parts of the frontal bone, orbital parts of the frontal bone. You can see supraorbital margin, supraorbital margin. This will be supraorbital notch or opening, incisura supraorbitalis or foramen supraorbitalis. Can be any one from them, can be both. You can see here is the lower section, here will be frontal tubercle. Here will be glabella, eyebrow arc. The agomatic process of the frontal bone, nasal part of the frontal bone. Here, like my hand, is scale, pars squamosa of the frontal bone. Here will be crista galli, cribriform plate, lamina cribrosa of ethmoid bone. Crista galli, lamina cribrosa, cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. Here will hang below, notice broke to say, this is perpendicular lamin of ethmoid bone. Lesser wings of the sphenoid bone, greater wings. Here you can see the borders. Do you see greater wings of the sphenoid body? This is body of the sphenoid bone. This is body. Because this dorsal side is called turcic saddle. This will be dorsum sella turcica, back of the turcic saddle. Here will be hypophyseal fossa. Hypophyseal fossa, turcic saddle, back of the turcic saddle, dorsum sella turcica. These are greater wings. These are lesser wings. Between lesser wings and body will be optic canal. The right optic canal and left optic canals communicate by chiasmatic groove. In the center, hypophyseal fossa, fossa for the pituitary gland. To both sides will be longitudinal depressions for the visit of the carotid internal artery to the brain. This will be carotid groove. On the greater wing is placed foramen rotundum, round opening, it in the, do you see, beginning of the greater wing from body. Do you see? On the posterior margin of the greater wing will be foramen ovale, oval open, foramen spinosum. You can see between body of the sphenoid bone, between, do you see, basal part of the occipital bone and between tip of the pyramid of the temporal bone, here in the center, biggest opening, which is called foramen lacerum. It, do you see, directly opens outside. This is foramen lacerum. Here, if you want to show, here obliquely my pen is placed. This will be internal opening of the carotid canal. Carotid canal has, do you see, hook direction. Here will be external open of the carotid canal. Here will be internal open because it from lower directs in front of and above. Do you see? You can see foramen lacerum, internal opening of the carotid canal, foramen internum, the canalis caroticus, foramen rotundum, foramen ovale, foramen spinosum. Between lesser wing and between greater wing will be longitudinal fissure. You can see this will be longitudinal fissure, which is called fissura orbitalis superior. Superior orbital fissure. Что? What do you want? See, I explained you, this is foramen rotundum, this is foramen lacerum, terrain open, this is internal open of the carotid canal, this is foramen ovale, oval open, this is foramen spinosum. Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You can see when the pyramid of the temporal bone joins to the lateral part of the occipital bone, they do by notches jugular open, foramen jugularis. Foramen jugularis, this do you see join of the notch of the temporal bone to the notch of the occipital bone. Two notches, they do jugular open, foramen jugularis. Didn't jugular opening. You can see this is pars squamosa of the temporal bone. This, do you see, is mastoid process. This, do you see, mastoid notch. And this is broken of the styloid process. Give me the color skull. You can see this is mastoid process. This is styloid process, mastoid process. This is broken of the styloid process. Between them is placed stylomastoid open. You can see mastoid process, broken of the styloid process, stylomastoid open, foramen stylomastoidum. In front of then it, do you see, in front of then the stylomastoid open will be jugular fossa, fossa jugularis, and do you see its medial incomplete part will do the jugular open from outside, jugular open from inside. You can see here is external opening of the carotid canal. You can see this will be, do you see, this will be squamous part. You can see zygomatic process of the temporal bone. Between mastoid process and between zygomatic process is placed external acoustic meatus. By external acoustic meatus, I enter into the tympanic cavity. If I will go deeply, look please here, this will be floor of the tympanic cavity into which I came. Did you understand? Because this will be floor of the tympanic cavity, it's called tympanic part. Tympanic part, squamous part, and Petrous part or pyramid. Petrous part of the pyramid. On the anterior side of the tip of the pyramid, impressio trigeminal, depression for the location of the trigeminal ganglion. You can see When the squamous part connects with the tympanic part, they do mandible fossa. Mandible fossa, to which joins the condyle process of the mandible and do temporomandibular joint. You can see this is alveolary process, this is palatine process, this is zygomatic process, this is frontal process of the maxilla. Processus frontalis, processus zygomaticus, processus alveolaris, and processus palatinus. These will be processes of the maxilla. Here will be, do you see, the body of the maxilla, corpus maxilla, or corpus maxillaris, inside of which will be the maxillary sinus. Here will be infraorbital margin. Here will be infraorbital opening which continues into the canal. This will be nasal bone. Here is broken. Here you can see it has yellow color, smaller bone. It is lacrimal bone. And here do you see white color? This is orbital plate white color of the ethmoid bone or ethmoid labyrinthus, if you want. You can see this unflat projection of the septums and dental sockets is called alveolary juga. This will be dental sockets. This will be pterygoid process of the sphenoid bone. Here will be pterygoid fossa. Between lateral and medial lamin will be pterygoid fossa. Here do you see will be horizontal plate of the palatine bone in front of maxillary process, palatine process of the maxilla, and behind will be horizontal plate of the palatine bone. They do you see from both sides the palatine process of the maxilla, horizontal plate of the palatine bone on right side, and the same on left side. They do the hard palate. Here will be incisor canal. On the horizontal plate of the palatine bone will be greater palatine opening and lesser palatine opening. Greater palatine canal open, lesser palatine canal opening. The posterior side of the maxilla, of the body of the maxilla, has the convex shape because it is called the maxillary tuber. Zygomatic bone has frontal process, temporal process, and maxillary process. No, and what I didn't show of the skull, what I didn't show. Internal acoustic meatus, meatus acousticus internus, external acoustic meatus.
Supraorbital canal.
What?
Supraorbital canal.
Supraorbital canal, we
It's
don't
not
have
visible.
supraorbital notch or opening. Can be both. Because why? Can here do you see from frontal region into the orbit comes the supraorbital nerve. Supraorbital nerve is branch of the trigeminal nerve, which brings insertive. And to the frontal region exits supraorbital artery, is branch of the ophthalmic artery, and comes inside supraorbital vein. Sometimes vessels, vein and artery and nerve, they go together. Sometimes vessels and nerves, they don't have a friendship, and one will go through the notch, another through the opening, or maybe opposite. If notch is long, they all will go together. If notch will be not and will be only open, they will go through it. Do you see? Here is opening. Do you see? And here is opening. Here you can see incomplete notches. Sometimes can be both. What I didn't show. Arc eminentium, eminentia arcuata. This is projection of the superior semicircular canal of the internal ear. Here do you see the flat side? Flat side. This is the roof of the tympanic cavity, is called tegmentum tympani. Tegmentum tympani, eminentia arcuata, arc eminentium, trigeminal impression. Trigeminal impression. Here, do you see? Here.
Même lambdoid suture.
Oh, my dear, this is lambdoid suture, do you see? This is coronary suture, and this is sagittal suture. But on the frontal bone, it developed by early development like pair bone. And by last time of the development, two pair bones complete into the one. Sometimes they can complete very compactly into the long bone, and 20% of the people can have metopic suture between, do you see, two frontal bones. Skull, that's all?
Sure.
Continue the skill. Mandible, my dear, why you said me? That's all. You can see this is mandible, this is body, these are branches. Corpus, branches. Body divides into the basal part and alveolar part. I want to recollect you. On the maxillas, and we have two maxilla, we have alveolar process. On the mandible, we have alveolar part. This is important for you for the description to see of the material in the medical history. If you will answer the alveolar part, the all persons will understand you speak about mandible. If will mark the process, the all persons will understand maxilla. Alveolar process, basal part. On the basal part, we can differentiate to both sides from center. Mental openings in front of, and in the center will be mental protuberance. Mental protuberance. Behind it, prominence inside by smaller prominentia, which is called mental spine. What is mental protuberance and what is mental spine? This is result of the connection, bony connection, ossification of this place where the two bones completed into one. You can see, here you can see smaller, do you see, fossas, digastric fossas. Do you see? Here, oh, my dear, excuse me, here will be digastric fossas. Here will be sublingual fossas. Spina mentalis, fossa sublingualis, fossa digastrica, protuberantia mentalis, foramen mentale. This is, do you see, ramus mandibulae, ramus mandibularis. Body continues into the ramus by mandible angle, angulus mandibularis. External side of the mandible angle, unflat, for the attaching of the masseteric tuberosity. It is called, for the attaching of the masseter muscle, it's called masseteric tuberosity. On internal side will be pterygoid tuberosity. On the internal side will be the mandible canal. On the internal side of the branch will be mandible canal. Here will be, do you see smaller triangular prominentia? Lingula. What it does? The vessels will come, do you see, from one side, nerves will come from another side. It collects and does the correct direction into the mandible canal. Here, do you see, will be mylohyoid line, from which begins mylohyoid muscle. Mylohyoid muscle. You can see, here will be processus candilaris, condyle process, and do you see another name, head. If the mandible started development like pair bone, it has two heads. Below than the head is placed neck. And in front will be continuation of the branch above, coronoid process. Between coronoid process and between the condyle process will be mandible notch. Coronoid process continues in front of and below by the oblique line, which is very contrast. processus candidialis, processus carinaeus, do you see, incisura mandibularis, caput mandibulae, colium mandibulae, ramus mandibulae, tuberositas mesoterica, tuberositas pterygoida, linea obliqua, canalis mandibularis, lingula, linea milachiaida, fossa digastrica, fossa sublingualis, pars alveolaris, this is pars alveolaris, foramen mentale, protuberance mentalis, spina mentalis. What I forgot, what you showed him? I shot. What I forgot?
No, I thought pterygomaxillary fissure already done.
Give me a skull. Maxillopterygoid process enter into the pterygopalatine fossa is called pterygomaxillary fissure. Deeply between maxilla, between pterygoid process and between perpendicular lamina of the palatine bone will be pterygopalatine fossa. Inferior orbital fissure between maxilla and the greater wing of the sphenoid bone. This will be inferior orbital fissure. This is pterygomaxillary fissure. You can see, give me nature. You can see, here do you see is pterygopalatine fossa, inside will be the third wall. The pterygomaxillary fissure, this is enter into it. This is inferior orbital fissure. This is mandible fossa, which is crossed by pietra-tympanic fissure. Mandible fossa is crossed by pietra-tympanic fissure. Here between scale, squamous part, do you see, and between Petros part, no, here students draw, here will be, do you see, Pietra-squamous fissure. Here will be Pietra-squamous fissure. Do you see, Tina, you can see it. Do you see? Do you see? And here will be Pietra-tympanic fissure, which crosses the mandible fossa. That's all? Да. Поехали с клитон.
Make it same. Little bit.
My dear, start to say the skeleton. Acromial end of the clavicle, sternal end of the clavicle. Here you can see on the lower, do you see, distal side of the clavicle, on the lower surface of the acromial end will be conoid tubercle from which continues trapezoid line. This will be manubrium, corpus, xiphoid process of the sternum. Manubrium, do you see, body and xiphoid process. Here will be incisura aegularis or incisura sternum. Here will be incisura clavicularis, clavicular notches. This will be costal fasciculus of the for the connection of the ribs. Here do you see will be here will be rib. You can show the rib. It has head which joins to the vertebral column. Another so narrow and flat part will be neck, column, head, caput. Do you see? This will be column. This will be body. On each lower part of the body of the rib, do you see? On each lower internal part, here, do you see? Here will be costal groove. Sulcus costalis. You can see sulcus costalis, sulcus costalis. By sulcus costalis, we can differentiate right or left rib. You can see on external side of the each rib, on external side is placed costal tubercle. Costal tubercle, it connects with transverse process of the vertebrae, of the thoracic vertebrae. You can see this is atlas, this is axis. You can see these are bodies of the vertebrae. You can see to both sides direct transverse processes, to the back direct spinosus process. This is, do you see, sternal extremitas, and this is vertebral extremitas of the rib. You can see this is pelvic surface of the sacrum. This is dorsal surface of the sacrum. This will be base, below will be tip, and this, do you see, border prominence into the pelvic box is called promontorium. This will be alia sacri, sacral wings, alia sacri. Look please here, you can see, this is, do you see any vertebra? Do you see here between two vertebrae, intervertebral opening? You can see this will be inferior vertebral incisura, this will be superior. Superior is not deep from lower vertebra, inferior deep from upper. The two notches, they do intervertebral opening. This will be upper notch. This will be upper notch, this will be lower notch. Lower notch of the vertebra, which is above, do you see, very deep. The upper vertebra of the upper notch of the vertebra, which is below, is superficial. They connect to intervertebral opening. You can see this is dense, this is anterior arc with anterior tubercle of the atlas, this is, do you see, posterior arc with posterior tubercle. You can see this is scapula, lateral margin, medial margin, or vertebral margin, upper margin. Lateral angle is the Coats position of the glenoid cavity. This will be superior margin. Here will be superior scapular notch. Here will be spine of the scapula. This will be acromion. This will be coracoid big process. The lateral margin connects with medial margin. They do the lower angle. Lower angle. Above than the spine will be supraspinatus fossa. Below than the spine will be infraspinatus fossa. Here do you see will be neck of the scapula. This is glenoid cavity. You can see this, do you see, will be costal surface. Vastus costalis. You can see head of the humerus, This will be anatomical neck, and this will be surgical neck. Anatomical neck is here between, do you see, flat, do you see, convex, which is articular surface, and here do you see its border will be anatomical neck. Here is surgical neck, because here very often will be fractures. You can see greater tubercle, lesser tubercle. Greater tubercle is, do you see, laterally, the lesser is medial. Between them is intertubercular groove. Do you see, this will be spiral groove. Do you see, sulcus spiralis. On the distal end, we have very big epicondylus medialis, lesser epicondylus lateralis. Here will be trochlea, hinge. Above than the hinge will be coronoid fossa. Above than the smaller globe capitulum will be radial fossa. By flexion, do you see, we do projection. You can see behind will be very deep olecranon fossa. You can see ulna. It has olecranon, coronoid process, between them hinge or trochlear notch. You can see in front will be ulnar tuberosity. And on the, do you see, lateral side of the coronoid process will be notch, radial notch for the contact with radius. This will be anterior, medial, posterior sides. The margin between anterior and posterior sides is called interossal margin. It looks at interossal margin between bones, do you see, of the radius. Distal region of the ulna is called head of the ulna, and here will be, do you see, like a ring, the articular surface, which is called ulnar circumferentium ulnaris. Here, the, do you see, continuation of the smaller, do you see, prominention of the ulna is called styloid process. If here will be head with styloid process and circumferentium, here is narrow part of it is called neck. Head of the ulna is placed below together with neck. Head of the radius is placed above. Here we have circumferential, radial circumferential, neck, column, and radial tuberosity. Tuberosities radi. Surfaces anterior, posterior, and lateral. Here will be anterior, posterior, and medial. Ulna is placed medially, and the third its surface medial. Radius is placed laterally, the third surface is lateral. You can see styloid process of the radius, dorsal tubercle of the radius. The ulnar notch on the medial side of the radius for the circumferential. Radius by styloid process looks at thumb. And all numerations of the bones, of the arteries, of the nerves, of the muscles will start from thumb. By palmar side or by dorsal side, every time. Because proximal roof of the wrist includes sphenoid, lunate, triquetrum with pisiform. From thumb, do you see from styloid process? Sphenoid, lunate, triquetrum, and on each smaller the pisiform. And again, trapezium, it is called multangium. Multangium is translated many angles, multi-angles. Do you see? Multangium maius, multangium minus, this were the last, by, do you see, history, anatomy, names of the trapezium and trapezoid. Do you see? And do you see many angles? But this is big and this is less. It has many angles. Do you see globe head? If we have, do you see any globe region, it is called head. This will be capitate. And this is hamate with hook. You can see the trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate. Metacarpal bones, their bases, and do you see the heads? They are globe. Do you see? And proximal, medial, distal phalanx. Greater pelvic box, lesser pelvic box. Between them is arcuate or terminal line. Sacrum pelvic side, dorsal side. On the pelvic side are placed pelvic openings of the sacrum. On the dorsal side, dorsal openings. In the center, like analogist of the spinosus processes, will be median crest. Two sides, do you see, so will be projection of the articulatory processes, will be intermedial. And distally then the dorsal openings will be lateral crest. And do you see, deeply than the lateral crest, when the ilium connects with sacrum, will be, do you see, sacral tuberosity. On the ilium will be iliac tuberosity. Sacral tuberosity, do you see, will be impression, depression, iliac tuberosity, impression, depression. They will do lock. Iliac crest, anterior superior iliac spine, anterior inferior iliac spine. Iliopubic eminentium. You can see here will be anterior superior, anterior inferior iliac notch. Behind will be posterior superior, posterior inferior iliac spines. Here will be posterior iliac notch, Between the ischiatic spine, this is ischiatic spine, this is ischiatic tuber. Between ischiatic spine and the, do you see, posterior inferior iliac spine will be greater ischiatic notch. And here below then the ischiatic spine, between the spine and tuber, will be inferior ischiatic notch. This will be acetabulum. Acetabulum has flat moon shape. This is lunate surface. The center of the acetabulum is very deep and it is without lunate surface. It is called acetabular fossa. And the lower border of the acetabulum is not completed. Acetabular notch. Acetabular notch, acetabulum, lunate surface, and the center acetabular fossa. Iliopubic eminentium, superior pubic branch, inferior pubic branch. You can see this is pubic tubercle. This is will be pubic symphysis. When do you see the pubic bone connects with the sciatic bone, they will do obturator foramen. Upper border of the obturator foramen is very deep. It does obturator groove. Obturator groove for the exit of the obturator nerve and artery. You can see femur. It has a caput head. In the center of the caput is placed fossa capitis femoris, fossa of the head of the femur, through which, for the blood supply of the bone marrow in the very thick epiphysis of the femur, will direct arteria capitis femoris. Because fossa depression in the center of which is placed open, specially for the visit of the same artery. Arteria capitis femoris will come by fossa capitis femoris. Column femoralis, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter. Dus between neck and dus greater trochanter will be trochanter fossa. Trochanter fossa. Dus on the posterior side of the femur, is aspera line, unflat line. Aspera line divides into the medial lip, lateral lip of the aspera line, between which will be popliteal fasces, popliteal surface. Do you see in front of, will be patellar surface for the joining of the patella. Two condyles, medial condyle and lateral condyle. Medial condyle is bigger than the lateral, and between them will be intercondyle notch, the deep place of which is called intercondyle fossa. Two condyles, the lateral prominentions of the condyles, they are called medial epicondyle, lateral epicondyle. The space between them is called notch, incisura intercondylaris, the center of which is called fossa intercondylaris. Popliteal surface. You can see tibia. You can see medial condyle, lateral condyle, tibial tuberosity. You can see intercondyle eminentia intercondylaris. In front of them it will be anterior field, behind of it will be posterior field. It is called area intercondylaris anterior, area intercondylaris posterior. We can differentiate, the anterior, medial, and posterior sides. You can see fibula. It has above head with tip of the head, apex capitis fibula, and distal continuation is called lateral malleolus. Tibia prominence below by medial malleolus. On the lateral side of the distal end of the tibia, on the lateral side, is fibular notch, incisura fibularis. You can see bones of the foot. You can see talus connects with fibula and tibia and do the ankle or talocrural joint. Talus has head, neck, trochlear surface, and this will be calcaneus or heel bone. It has calcaneus tuberosity, and it has the sustentaculum. Sustentaculum is translated keeping object. It keeps from lower talus. Talus connects with navicular bone. Calcaneus connects with cuboid bone. Navicular bone, cuboid bone, medial, intermedial, lateral, cuneiform bones. Metatarsal bones, analogous of the metacarpal bones, bases and heads, and phalanx of the fingers, proximal, medial, distal, except thumb on the upper limb and except on the lower limb, only two phalanx.
Tarsal sinus.
What?
Tarsal sinus.
Tarsal sinus, do you see, will be, do you see here? Do you see tarsal sinus? Tarsal sinus. My dear, I think for you it is very